like it wasn't the rah-rah.
The reality
love.
was because you didn't like me, and you were like, Ryan,
I wrote a very scathing letter.
I need a break.
It said, "Dear Rai, I don't like you.
Dear Propelio,
do you not like me? Check yes.
Nobody
check
cares.
No.
Anyway, what is a rap? What are we talking about? How does that influence us? What do we? Let's get.
So let's reset for a second. So where we are starting from this season, thanks to the brilliance of Ryan, kind of having his pulse on what you guys are looking for, is understanding that last season we kind of shotgunned a lot of things, some really cool, really advanced stuff. This season, what we want to do is we want to kind of start you from the beginning and walk you through so that we can kind of build that knowledge. So with that being said, if you're joining today for the first time and some of the things that we're saying maybe over your head or you're not sure what we're talking about, go back and watch season 2 from the start. This is only what, our third actual class or fourth actual class, and then we did a couple of different formatics in the middle of there. But go watch those. So episode 1, 2, and 3 are going to set up the knowledge that you need to know for today. We'll kind of reset some of it today, but things like, you know, what is a basis, what is a sub 2, all that kind of stuff we've taught in the previous episodes.
And again, subtle plug, if this is all new to you, don't be intimidated. It's supposed to be informational, it's supposed to be informative. If you have questions, there's no such thing as a stupid question. A stupid question is the only one that you don't ask. So I always like to say, it's all about that base.
Is that what you always like to say?
No, I like to say it's like, if you really want to know this stuff, you got to get all the way in and just complete full immersion. So go back, watch season 1. If you have an interest in sub 2, owner finance, wraps, whatever, like there's so many nuggets that are dropped because it was shotgun. It was just off the cuff.
Right.
And yes, following a season 2, there is a little bit more direction on how to get there. But again, don't wait week to week for one of these episodes. Go back and just rewatch the stuff.
That's the beautiful part about us having everything filmed for you and ready to go. I mean, we've got a playlist on Propelio's Facebook to watch these things that have led us to here. So again, episode 1 was about our basic strategies. Episode 2, or our basic terms. Episode 2 was about what is owner financing in general. Episode 3 went to subject 2, and then we did 4 and 5, and now we're doing 6, which is following up on that series, and that is the wraparound mortgage. The wraparound mortgage is massively, massively powerful. This is how we wrap it all up.
Wrap donut.
Wrap donut. And talk about where we make money, right? The cool thing is that what we've done to this point, what I've trained you from this point on, or to this point, was how do you acquire the house. But acquisition is only one part of the deal. You have to sell it to make money, don't you?
Can we do just a really quick visualization of why we joke around about the wrap donut?
Yes.
Just a really quick, like in your face, and then we'll back up and actually explain it. But I fear that people are hearing like me joke around with wrap donut and be like, what the hell is this idiot
we should be clear, wrap donut is not a real phrase, right?
It's only a phrase at Propelio.
So it's really the wrap mortgage. And the reason why we came to wrap donut is last season we were talking about wraps. And here's one way to visualize what a wrap is, okay? So if you visualize that you have a mortgage and it's represented by this circle, and that mortgage is for, let's say, 70 grand, and it's at 4.25%, and you have 22 years left on it, that's going to be your underlying mortgage that you have to pay, right? So let's run some quick numbers on that. And what that looks like is if you've got a, what did I say, 75,000? No, 70,000. If you've got a $70,000 note at 4.25 and it has 22 years left on it, that means that your payment on that note is going to be basically $409 a month, okay? So I'm going to put 409. This is not the cleaner. And then if we are going to make money on this, what we're going to do is we're going to have that as our underlying debt, and then we're going to sell the property. And when we sell the property, we're going to sell it for more. This is going to be sold, and we're going to have a mortgage at like $90,000 at 9.5% for 30 years, and that means that our payment coming in is going to be $756.77. So we have wrapped around our underlying financing to make money, and what happens there is in this situation, we have a cash flow of about $350 a month that's coming in. But you see, we have a higher principal balance, we have a higher interest rate, we have a higher amortization, and a higher payment.
But for the foodies in the room, what does that look like? It looks like a donut.
Right, so there's where our wrap donut side of things
came from. All right, let's get back on track.
So yeah, this is this is what a wrap looks like in its very simplest terms, right? We are taking financing to get into that property. Now, one thing that I want to be clear on is that when we acquire the property, we're going to use something like a subject to acquire. We're going to buy with cash. We're going to buy however we buy, okay? Subject to is an acquisition model. Wraparound is a disposition model. We do not want to acquire a house with a wrap mortgage.
So real quick, and this might be way dumbed down, but the first time I heard the word disposition was maybe 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I think it gets thrown around in real estate so much that, yeah, 88% of the people, yeah, I know what disposition is.
Sure.
But for the 12% and Ryan, what is disposition
Well,
mean?
and if you're in that 12%, don't feel so bad, because I don't know if y'all are familiar with Bigger Pockets, but I was on the Bigger Pockets podcast a few years ago, and this was 2013. Yeah, I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me pick that up real quick. Put it back in my pocket so I can brag about that again later. Yeah. But in a very public fashion, I learned what the word disposition meant.
So where's the link to that?
Yeah, it was episode 70, I think. So yeah, disposition. When I say disposition, it's how are you going to dispose of the property? How are you going to sell that property?
Oh, that's what it means. I thought it was sales.
We talk about acquisition and disposition. How are we going to acquire and how are we going to dispose of this property, right?
I knew that.
So, wraparounds are a disposition model. This is a way that you make money in real estate. If you buy with a wraparound, I'll show you at the end of the episode, unless I forget, remind me, why buying with a wraparound is a bad idea. It's a bad idea for the same reason as why we make money on this. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give another visualization of this wraparound, okay? Because sometimes people think of things a little bit differently. In this visualization, what I'm going to talk about in red, we're going to say is our money out, okay? So our money out on this deal,
which is the acquisition side.
Acquisition side, okay. Our money out might be, and I guess I'll use the same numbers to make it easy. 74 and a quarter, 22. Our money out is going to be $70,000 at 4.25%. for 22 more years, and that means that our payment is $409 that we're paying out. Okay, now I drew it like this because I'm saying that this is today, and this is 22 years from now.
And just to do some cleaning house, we're not talking about, you know, cash for keys. We're not talking about the actual negotiations. Yeah. We're not talking about how we got to this point. If you want more information on those, watch previous episodes. Right now, we're just assuming we now have the deed to the house,
right?
And we're paying $409 a month for 22 years at 4.25%.
Correct.
Right.
And why I spent so much time on that note, why I spend time specifying that this is a disposition model, is oftentimes I'll get a lot of questions that start asking about this part of the equation. And here's the thing, I don't care about this part of the equation. This part of the equation, however you get into the property, get into it.
Right.
If you get into it with sub 2, cool. If you get into it with your own financing, cool. If you get into it with your own cash, cool. Get into it however you want, but you're going to have debt on that property. Or I should say, at least you should have debt on that property. It's the better way to do things. So then what we're going to do is, again, we're today, but we're going to take that loan and we're going to sell it to somebody for 30 years, okay? So we're going to give them a $90,000 mortgage at 9.5% for 30 years, and that means that their payment is going to be $757 if I round up. Okay? So the reason why I want to draw it out this way is that the timeline of when we get into a house and when we exit that house is very important as far as our mortgages go. Okay? I have wrapped that $70,000 mortgage with a $90,000 mortgage. Okay?
So by this visualization, this is stupid. We're now at a wrap eclair?
Oh my gosh. Boo this man.
Boo. Boo. I'm hungry, y'all.
Yeah, right.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, it's early. So the reason why I like doing it with this visualization is that it is so important to appreciate and understand the differences that we have both in time and equity. Okay? So this illustrates a little bit of a combination of both. What I want to point out here is if we sell a house in this manner, in that wraparound mortgage, we're going to be collecting about $350 a month, and I'm just rounding on that number.
For 22 years.
For 22 years. Exactly. So in green, our money in, we are getting $350 a month, which is great. But that ends in 22 years. Well, guess what happens in 22 years is we have this guy all paid off. So for that last chunk of time here, that last 8 years, we're going to be making a full $757 a month.
Which is more.
Which is more. I love when you say that. So here's the thing. This is why this unlocks wealth for us. This is why this unlocks the financial freedom that you guys are looking for. This is why wraparounds are such a powerful, powerful model. If I can, I think I dropped another name down here. So I'm in a mastermind group with Eddie Speed, and one of the things that he said this last weekend when we were at our little get together, I loved it. He said, when fix and flippers grow up, they start investing in notes. And I love how he put that, because it's so true. As we see this evolution of people getting into the industry who start with wholesaling because they can get into it, maybe they start taking down some fix and flips, and then they look around and they say, wait a minute, I'm working a job. Right? How do I make something that's going to give me generational wealth? How do I make something that's going to actually give me the financial freedoms? Another way that he puts it, Eddie, is that he says, you don't have a portfolio, you have a business. You have a job, right? And that's okay. It's a really high paying job. But when you want to get to that next level, this is what unlocks that. Because what this says is that in 22 years, you're sitting on the beach, and all of a sudden your daily alerts go off on your phone for your bank balances, and you say, holy crap, why am I getting another $5,000 a month all of a sudden? Well, because 20 years ago, today, when you're watching now, you took down 3 or 4 houses this month.
And what I love about this, and especially with you specifically, is the ability of when you compound it all. Like the fact that you're not doing one singular deal. You're doing 3 to 5 deals a month, 10 deals a month. But and I don't know what episode, but last year we did an episode where literally it was, if you can do 4 or 5 of these for the next,
10
years, 4 or 5 each, like, guess what? In 20 years, you're going to be retired and drinking Coronas or whatever.
Can I hop in there real quick?
Please do.
It's almost as though we actually have our crap together and we're planning this. If you come to the Propelio DFW REI meetup
This Tuesday,
November 13th, I will be speaking for exactly how are you going to apply the principles that we've taught you in these first few episodes to build your retirement out so that you can retire comfortably in 10 years, right? It's incredible how reasonable it is.
And on that, and the reason I brought up you is the fact that 4 or 5 years ago, we're working in an
old Taco Bueno.
An old Taco Bueno. And you're new to the business. I'm somewhat new to the business, and we're like, hey, and we're like, hey, how are you? Hey, I'm good, and they're like, what do you do? I don't know. What do you do? I don't know. Cool.
I buy houses.
I want to be your friend. And then broke. I mean,
broke is a joke,
you say
man.
it. You say it all the time how broke you were. And then, but compounding and building and building and building, and now he's Grant Kemp.
But again, and that's why we did episode 4 with Chase Howard. That was when I said we kind of dropped away from some formatics for a second. Is I want to be very clear. If you're watching this video today and you don't feel it, you don't see, you're like, man, I just don't have any money. I'm just not seeing where this is going. I mean, Ryan's telling the truth. He and I, that's how we met, was in that office probably 5 or 6 years ago. And he and I were the 2 guys that were there till 9:30 every night, right? You saw,
9:30?
well, midnight, whatever. Yeah. I mean, working late trying to get this going. And I was happy that I could afford a fold-out white table to put my stuff on, right? But it does take that. Once it does compound, and I'm gonna short circuit this for you and tell you the moral of the story so that you can be encouraged and wonder what the heck. It only takes buying a house a quarter for 10 years. To live the type of retirement, I'm from Boston, the type of retirement that you're all looking for. I can say with pretty good confidence, because I've heard enough people tell me what they want, a house a quarter gets you there. And you show up to that meetup on November 13th or watch the live stream. You'll learn all about that.
And not to rabbit hole too far away from this conversation about the wraps and actually being educational, but it still blows my mind to this day the difference between Bob and Sarah, where Bob analyzes and processes and thinks, and Sarah may not know what the hell she's doing, but she takes action.
Yep.
And who's more successful, the guy that knows everything or the person that takes action?
Yep.
And it blows my mind how many stupid people are in real estate that are so successful. I'm just saying.
All right, so if we look back...
You're like, I'm getting away from that one.
No, not at all. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's true. It's one of the things that if I look at the most successful people that I know, it's the ones who jumped and waited for the net to appear. If you spend too much time thinking, you don't... What's important? Knowing or having? Right? Do you have the houses and the income, or do you know how to do it? So take that action, whatever that means, whether that's going out and networking or watching these videos or whatever. So if we go back to this example of what we're looking at in our wraparound, right? We've seen that for the first 22 years, we're going to make $350 a month. And then for 8 more years after that, we're going to make $757 a month. Let me just show you a quick outline of what that means to us as far as our income goes. So for 22 years, that's 264 months, we're going to make $350 a month. That's $92,400 in this time right now, $92,400. Well, over here at that last 8, we're going to make $757 a month. So if we do 8 times 12, I don't know how many months that is, times $757 a month, that's another $672. Oh no, what am I doing? That's another $72,672. Now, what I neglected to mention here is that when you sell this property, I mentioned that, hey, you're going to have a mortgage for $90,000. What I didn't mention is you sold that property for $100,000. And when you sold that property for $100,000, you took a $10,000 down payment, 10% towards that purchase price from your buyer. Okay, and of that, you're going to pay a realtor $3,000 or $4,000 for bringing you that buyer. So let's say that you net $6,000 from that. Well, you're going to net from the down payment at this area another $6,000. So if you do, I did that all wrong, $6,000. So if you add that all up, you made $72,672 plus $92,400 plus $6,000. That's a total net profit of $171,000 on this loan that you wrapped.
Which, if you're buying it right, and again, we're not getting into that, all the only expense you put into it is your marketing, your referral payments, whatever you had to get to the house. And if, like, because I know a lot of your business, you don't really do cash for keys. You just like, hey, I'm helping you out, give me your house.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I've had so many people just give me their house because we're offering something that helps them. If we're catching up payments, we're keeping them from going to a foreclosure, whatever that might be, that's helpful to them, right?
So real quick, and I don't want to, I mean, we got plenty of time, so I don't necessarily want to detract you from the message of the thing, but only because it's relevant in the past month. And because we were having a conversation with somebody potentially doing a joint venture, and you were just showing the economics of doing a joint venture. And no, this is not a plug for Grant, but it just blew my mind that, because typically in wholesaling, it's like, yeah, we could do we could co-wholesale, we could JV on this, and you'll make 5, I'll make 5. Hey, we could do a flip. Yeah, we'll JV on this. I'm doing all the work. You brought the lead. I'll make 20 and you'll make 10 or whatever. And then on a similar deal, well, I don't remember the specifics of the deal, but I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, this potential JV, the person could have made like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. Yes, it would have taken 30 years, but I'm like, all you did was bring a lead, brought a contract, and it blew my mind that when you have potential to have a deal like this, even if you don't know what you're doing, bring it over to someone like a Grant, someone, I don't know who else, but we'll just say Grant and the other Grant, or Claire, bring them to somebody else, bring them to deal, joint venture on it, learn how to do it, and you could still make so much money doing this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said I would much rather make a little bit of a lot than a lot of a little bit, because not only are you helping more other investors out, you're helping more sellers out, you're helping more buyers out. Everybody's winning more when you're doing a lot of a little bit, or I'm sorry, a little bit of a lot, and you're hedged, right? Because you've got income coming from different spaces. Now there's an argument for the other side, keep it small, keep it all, right? So everybody's got a rhyme.
When it comes to, like, because you just talk about, sometimes you got to bring the loan current. Like, is that, is there a standard there? Is there a target that you're looking for? Is it, if it's 5, you'll do it. If it's 20, if it's doing it. If it's 100, you're staying away. Like, is there a standard there?
There is, yeah. So I've got a couple of rule of thumbs, and we might spend an actual Grant Teach Me Something on these rules of thumb in the future, but I've got a couple of rule of thumbs to run your deal by. Now, again, this question now is dealing more with subject to, right? This would be something that is on the acquisition side, is if they've got if they need to get caught up on bringing the loan current. So so again, and y'all will get tired of me separating these so heavily, but subject to is not a wraparound, and a wraparound is not a subject to. Now, one thing that we've got is that owner financing, seller financing, those two are synonymous. If you say owner financing, you say seller financing, same thing. Within that umbrella, there are different methods of owner financing. Subject to is one method. Wraparound is one method, right? Free and clear owner financing is one method. So again, I know I'm harping, but we do need to separate this in our mind, because if we don't separate this now, some of the more advanced strategies that we get into in the future are going to be much more confusing. That said, answer the dang question, right?
I forgot the question.
The question is, what is the kind of rule of thumb for if you're bringing a loan current? So if you are going to be buying a house subject to and you need to bring that loan current, my rule of thumb is that I want to have 2 times whatever cash I have to put into that property to acquire that property as equity.
Okay? Oh yeah, episode 13.
Is that episode 13? Oh, okay, I was like, wow, man, that's an encyclopedia I'm sitting next to. 2 times whatever cash used to bring to put the deal together. That means, hey, and that's by the time you close on the acquisition. So when you close on the acquisition, have you agreed to give the seller $5,000? I would rather you not, but did you? Do you have to catch up the loan for $6,000? Okay, so if you've got those 2 things, you're putting $11,000 into that house just to buy the property. In cash, you're putting up $11,000. You're taking over on their loan sub 2, making payments on their behalf. I want you to double that number. Look at that number, that would be 22. This is the balance that I want you to have as equity between your new loan balance after you've acquired the property at the closing table. When you catch up that loan, I want you to look at that number, add the 2 times cash, and that should be your minimum ARV of the property.
Can you do me a favor? Can you whiteboard that out real quick?
Absolutely.
Because I'm hearing you, but I'm 2 feet away, and I'm not hearing you.
Okay, so
with love and respect.
Let's look at an acquisition of a property subject to. Let's say that they owe 75. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change that. I'm going to say that they owe $85,000 on it. And the reason I'm saying this is it's going to be $100,000 ARV. And I want you to be able to buy this house with subject to that you wouldn't have been able to buy with cash. $85,000 is too much. Let's say that they are $5,000 behind, okay, or $6,000 behind, and you agreed to give them $5,000, just like I was just talking about. That would mean, let's write both of those things down. They are $6,000 behind.
One would be to like bring it current. One would be to walk away.
Right. And we're going to call those arrears or arrearages. It is not in the rears, it is arrears. That's I hear people, and they type it to me all the time, hey, they're $5,000 in the rear. And I'm like, I think I go to Harry Hines for that. It is arrears. Anyway, as I make my risque joke for the day. And this is for the year. This is $5,000 cash for keys is what I'm going to say, okay? So a lot of times people will say, hey, if you let me take over on your payments, make payments on your behalf, go watch Subject to video, I'll give you $5,000 to walk away, right? I don't think you should do that always, but sometimes you have to. So you add those things together. I don't know how to speak English good. And you have $11,000. Cash basis. Watch episode 1 to understand what I mean by that. So now we've got 11 grand that we've put into the house just to buy this property, right? I want you to, as my rule of thumb goes, double that, times 2. I'm going to say, because this is called my 2 times cash rule. That means that in our theoretical mind, we are looking for equity of $22,000. Now, I harped on something for a second. I harped on the fact that I want you to compare this equity number as the amount that they owe on the house once you've closed and brought that loan current. Why might I be harping on that? So if we think about they're $6,000 behind, and I want you to compare what they owe after we close and we catch up that loan. Why is that important to me?
Well, because like right now it says $85,000 was they owe.
Right.
If you pay the $6,000, it's not well now it's $79,000. There's math there,
right?
And some of that payment does go against it, but you have to do this thing called math, to figure out, because you have to take into account the principal, the interest, the taxes, all that mumbo jumbo that's on episode 27.
So I do want to. Is
that where you're going?
It is exactly where I'm going with that. I don't want to spend too much time on this because, again, this is subject to, and we do answer this in the subject to video, episode 3 of this season. But in short, when you're behind on payments, you're behind on principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So only one portion of that payment is actually going to affect the principal. Too many times we have the false assumption of, hey, they're $6,000 behind and they owe $85. When I catch them up with the 6, they're only going to owe $79. Right. Or they're $6,000 behind, they owe $85, which means that they really owe $91, and when I bring up the 6, they'll owe $85. Neither of those is right. Some of that 6 is going to go towards principal. The rest is going to go towards interest, taxes, insurance, and fees. Okay? So typically, in my experience, about 15% of those arrears are actually going to affect your principal. So in this case, we wouldn't have very much affecting the principal. I'm just going to round up and say the new principal balance might be $84,000 once you catch it up. So what we would do is we would look at our new principal balance once we've caught it up, which we're going to just say is $84,000, and then we're going to add 22 because that's our 2 times cash equity, and that's what I want your minimum ARV to be. So in this case, we've got 22. We're going to add the 84K, which is the post-closing UPB, which stands for unpaid balance.
So now you're at 106, and the ARV is 100. So is there a wiggle room there, or you're like, hey, it's not worth it?
Right. So 106 is what we would want the ARV to be. Sometimes that's unreasonable, because sometimes people owe like $20,000, $30,000 in arrears, and it's unreasonable to think you're going to get $60,000 worth of equity on a $130,000 house. So if you don't hit that goal, the next step that I want you to do is I want you to take 82% of your ARV and your principal balance of the loan plus your cash basis should add up to be about 82% of that loan. So again, our second rule of thumb, the caveat of if we don't hit our 2 times cash rule, is we want to take our principal balance of the loan plus the cash basis, and we want that to add up to be around 82% of ARV. So in this case, we still don't hit that model. Our cash basis plus our 85 would be 96, and that is way more than 82. Because if our house is worth 100,
right,
then we would want all of our basis, our total basis, to be $82,000. Right. So in this case, we wouldn't hit either of the rules of thumb, and that would kind of knock me out from doing that deal.
So that's bad.
That's bad.
So,
but let's move back to the wraparounds.
But before we get there, let's take a quick break. I do have a couple more questions. I know Sonia was asking, and we'll get to this question right after the break. But since you're catching up payments, where does that money come from? I think that's a quick answer. Usually, it's a private lender and then give them a second on it.
Right.
That's the quick answer, Sonia. Somebody was saying Ryan makes it so easy.
Good job, Ryan.
That's Grant.
Thanks for doing this, man.
And then I think there's one more. And I know this is a quickie, so we'll get to it. Claire was asking, is there a simple tool that beginners can use for calculating interest and payments or whatever makes it easier? I know Grant's answer is the
10B2 calculator.
Exactly. So we're going to take a quick break. Stick around. We'll be right back, and we'll get back on message, which is the wraps. So
see you in a minute.
Make sure you ask questions, and we'll be right back. Today we're talking about wrap mortgage, not wrap, yeah, all that stuff on Grant T something. Before I give the reins back to Grant, I do want to point out that Fernando out of San Antonio was saying, Grant, you're the bomb.
Aw, thanks, Fernando.
He got at least
you're the bomb.
one.
Somebody likes me.
Everybody else likes me. Anyway.
I'm validated.
Cool. Let's get back on it. Let's get back on message.
Yeah. So what I've shown you at the beginning was the quick hit of like, where does the money come from in the wrap?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me dive a little bit deeper into some of the technicality of what's happening with a wraparound mortgage. So I've kind of given you the, what's the word I'm looking for? Like the theory of it. But let's look at what the documents would actually look like to do that wraparound mortgage. And I think that that'll be pretty easy to go through here. Now, again, I really recommend that you watch our first 3 videos because that's going to build your foundation of knowledge to get to a point where some of these things that I might blow past and you're like, whoa, 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 we've explained that. That's the point of this season, is that we're trying to build on ourselves. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a little picture because I like drawing pictures. So we've got a house, okay? And we own this house, and we owe the bank money on it. If we bought that house subject to, we're going to be sitting right here. You are happy because you're about to make money. And you have the warranty deed to that house. You own it. The money that you will be paying on a monthly basis goes to the bank, okay?
The bank.
The bank. So I'm going to draw the bank that looks like a jail because that's what I always do. Commercial building. So you owe the bank money. Now on this, you're paying them dollars every month to keep that house.
And that is the note.
That is the note, right? We're paying that. Now we're actually paying this on behalf of the person that we bought it from. Mm-hmm. We bought it from Joe Homeowner. That's our seller. And Joe Homeowner is actually the one whose name is on the note and on the deed of trust, okay? In other words, they are the ones that have liability on this loan. We are making that loan on their behalf.
In an 8-second recap, what is the deed of trust?
The deed of trust, the note says, hey, you owe us, the bank, $75,000 at 4 1/4 over 22 more years. The deed of trust says, if you don't pay us that, we get to take your house from you.
Cool.
Okay, so that's sub 2 in a nutshell there. Now, as a wraparound, now what I want to draw out here is that we have now a first lien right here. What defines lien position?
I think I've said it a couple times. It's simply when when it was filed.
Simply
like
when it was
timing
filed.
of it. So it's not a dollar amount. So if I buy a house or if I sell a house and the note is $1, but then the second lien is for like $1 million, I still have first lien position because of the dollar, because of the timing of it.
Absolutely.
It has nothing to do with the amount of it.
Yep, absolutely. So time and date is the only thing that matters in lien position. So that lien with the bank is actually in first lien position, meaning if they foreclose, everything below it gets wiped out entirely and doesn't get squat.
Right.
Okay. When we buy this house subject to, we will have purchased it, and we're actually going to get a second lien position on there. We're going to do something called a DTSP, which is a deed of trust to secure performance, and that right there is actually second lien. That means that if we don't pay the bank every month, our seller gets to foreclose on the house and get it back from us because we promised that we were going to pay the bank, and if we don't, they should have collateral, or they should have recourse for that. Now, when we want to wrap that deal, that's where we're going to make our money. To even that, if you borrowed to get into this. We'll do an episode on private capital at some point in time because that's a very, that's a bit that a lot of people, I'm hearing a lot of feedback, people are interested in private capital. So we'll get to a private capital
And like
episode.
just a 10-second, what is private capital? Private capital is like, hey, Grant, you got some money on this property I want to do? Sure, private capital. Versus, hey, Grant LLC, I mean, Grant may still, anyway, versus like a bank or hard money, an institution. Private capital is just, somebody in your network that's willing to place their money.
Right. So now let's jump over and we're going to sell that house. And we're going to sell that house to a family who is self-employed and is unable to get a mortgage from a normal mortgage company. And they are happy and they buy the house from us. What we're going to do is we're going to sell them the house, which means that this warranty deed is going to transfer on down to them. We're going to just go skirt. That's no longer our warranty deed. We are going to give them the warranty deed, which the warranty deed is what gives ownership to the property. Okay, so I'm going to say ownership. Okay, and then in return, where we make the money is that they give us a note and a deed of trust. That note and deed of trust is where, in this example that we've been doing, their note would say, hey, they owe us 90 grand at 9.5 for 360 months, which is a $757 payment every month. And this right here is really a third lien. I don't even know where to put it. Third lien. Okay? The reason why I'm illustrating all of this is to illustrate that we have a kind of a correct chain of command that comes down from responsibility, okay? So if we look at our chain of command and responsibility, the first place that we have is the bank loan. So bank loan is first lien. Then there's a lien to us, lien, second lien to us, and then we're going to say third lien to buyer.
Real quick, only because I haven't heard my voice in a minute, and I don't know if we've actually even covered liens and what it, because again,
we covered it in the first episode, but yeah, let's talk about that.
Like for 15 seconds,
yeah.
I love putting these numbers on it. Like, what is a lien?
A lien is simply debt on the property that has to be paid back before the owner gets to accept any profits.
That was like 7 seconds. Perfect. Thank you.
So, again, with lien position mattering, we want to make sure that we understand that, hey man, as long as, because again, if you foreclose on a primary lien, not primary, but not a subordinate, the lien that's above it,
the number one
lien, everything beneath it wipes out, and it keeps going that way. So if our buyer does not pay us, right? So this is a question from Claire. What happens if they default on their payments to us? If their payments to us do not come in, we foreclose on them and we get that house back. But all the while, even though we foreclose on this lien, my handwriting is beautiful.
It's called FC.
That, even when we're foreclosing there, our job is that we're going to continue making good payments to the bank so that the bank doesn't foreclose on us.
Because what does a bank want?
Money.
Exactly.
The bank wants money. The bank wants money, and we want to give it to them. As long as we keep the bank happy by paying our payments on the underlying lien, that keeps that asset as part of our portfolio, and we can kick that person out and get more money. Now, I want to be very clear here. Do the right thing. Always. Something you will find in every one of our mission statements of every company I have is that we're going to do the right thing, especially when it's not in our best interest. And I really encourage you to adopt that same mentality. We are not going to put people into our houses that we don't think 100% can pay us back.
Right.
But if they don't pay us and we foreclose on them, we actually make a ton more money in the long run. And we'll talk about that on a separate episode, about the money that happens from a foreclosure and reloading that property. But today we're just kind of hitting what is the wrap.
And again, to go further away from that, you're talking about doing the right thing. It's not just do the right thing to your potential buyer, but also your seller.
Right.
At the end of the day, your seller is always going to be better off because you've caught them up on payments. You've probably made additions and improvements to the property, and the underlying debt on that property is way gone. But if poo does hit the fan, you can always give that property. You can always give that property back to them, through the foreclosure process. But obviously, you're not in this business to lose money. You're in this business to keep moving forward.
Right.
But again,
right.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah, I mean, we understand that we are putting our paperwork together so that when the poo hits the fan, we aren't really held super accountable for that, right? Like,
I feel like a video with Travion and I with like a giant fan and throwing that hat through the fan.
But we do want to do the right thing because ethically and morally, that's what we want to do. Right. So yeah, here we have what that wrap looks like. We've created lien positions that allow us to keep our loan current while we foreclose on somebody and get that money back. The wraparound itself, we're just making sure that we're financing for more, for a longer term, for more more cash per every month. And that's where that wraparound mortgage really comes to play.
And to get us back on message, Sarah Pinnock has a great comment. This whole strategy is a marathon. It's not a sprint, and that's the mindset of it. And I think that's a great segue to get us back talking about the wraps and whatnot.
Right.
Because again, with you, when I first met you, it was like, yay, I'm making $150 per property that I'm splitting with my partner.
I know.
Which means
my 2 other partners at that point.
Yeah.
So I was making $30 a property.
Woo!
Yeah, right. Or $50 a property, I should say. I'm sorry. But you know, that's part of it, right? Like I sold my truck, I bought a cash car, we were living as low as we could, and made it happen to where now we don't have to live like that, and it's through this method.
And just to get a moment of rah-rah in this episode, if anybody thinks any sort of real estate investing strategy does not work, please reassess your career change or your life choice. Real estate investing is a lot of work. It is a lot of grind.
Right.
So
absolutely is.
And then Claire, again, sorry, she has a good question of what happens if you no longer want to hold the note. You sell the note. You find a Grant, you find a Scott Carson, you find a Kristen Gertz, and then you negotiate selling that property, selling that note, just like you would a wholesale deal, a flip deal, any other type of transaction.
Right.
Hey, I got this really cool car. You want to buy it? Okay, let's negotiate.
Right.
Same thing.
Absolutely. I sell a bunch of notes. And again, we'll talk about that in a future episode too, probably very soon. Maybe one of the next episodes will be about selling the note to get out of it, because you do have that asset making you money in the middle. We could go down hours and hours and hours of more. Well, no. I'm saying of more like wraparound stuff. But I think that we're hammered here with the basic knowledges that you need to have to understand what is a wrap mortgage. Now, I want to again clarify. This example that we've written here was an example of a subject to acquisition and a wraparound disposition. This was 2 different transactions that are not dependent on each other. You could have bought with cash and then wrapped around, right? But the example that I was giving was a subject to acquisition and a wraparound disposition.
So I would like to try something new. I would like you to hand me the iPad, and I want to explain the wraparound mortgage, and you can poke holes or make fun and see where we're at.
I love it.
And let's assume that, you know, Ryan S. Harper owns this property free and clear. So, well, no. Let's assume I have $100,000 debt on this property.
Yep.
But it's mine. I'm not doing a sub-2 deal. I'm just going to owner finance or whatever in a wrap. But I'm going to sell it for, and I don't know how to do your handy-dandy things, but I'm going to sell it for $200, which is more than $100.
Right.
And essentially, you know, yes, I'm still paying that debt for $100, but I'm also getting the $100 for here. So essentially, well, I'm getting $200 here, so $200 minus the $100, I'm making $100. Again, I'm dumbing it way down. But essentially, just to get the concepts of what is a wrap.
Right.
I mean, this is essentially what a wrap is, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, we can go Grant speed on it and get into the interest rates and all that.
Yeah.
But for the simplest, dumbing it down, you've got the note or the mortgage or the original property right here, and then I'm dispositioning here, and this right here, and this is probably just chicken scratch, that's the wrap.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I don't know if that helps anybody other than me just showing that I worse drawer than Grant.
So, before we go to break, I want to hit the that, like what you're talking about there, to talk about back at this wrap donut image, right?
This is way better than mine, but
just to clarify here, something that's exciting about wraps and why it's so cool is if you look at this, look, we're charging, the reason why we make this money and the reason why I don't want to buy with a wrap, I want to sell with a wrap, is we charged $90,000, right? We charged $90,000 at 9.5%. Of that 90, we have to pay somebody else 70.
Right.
But we only have to pay it to them at 4.25.
Right.
So what that means is that we're making 5.25% spread on money that isn't even ours. We're charging somebody 9.5 for the full 90, but we only have to pay 4.25 for 70 of that. So we're making 5.25% on money that's not even ours, and then we're making 9.5% on our equity spread, which in this case is the $20,000. We're making a full 9.5 on that, which is money we just made up, and somebody owes it to us.
So just to point out, 9.5% is more than 4.25%.
Exactly. So I think that that's probably a good opportunity to go to a break. Think of some questions that you may have, because we're going to come back and we're going to hammer out questions and do a little Q&A session for you.
Yeah, so get those questions lined in. I know we have a couple coming in. Lee, I see yours. Sally, I see your comments. And we'll get those right after this quick break. So stick around. If you have more, nothing. Obviously, you see me up here and I'm stupid and silly and I can't draw. So we want this to be a dialogue. We want this to be as engaging as possible for you guys. So stick around. We'll be right back and see you in a minute. We're back. So Lee Porter, does a seller ever come back to you at a later date because the debt is still on their credit and they can't get another loan on a new house? We've talked about this several times, but essentially, before you do any of the paperwork, which is exhaustive and extensive, consult your attorney.
Right.
The language that you would say, you've said it over and over and over, and I would love to hear you say it again. Like, what do you tell them before you even get into the deal with the sellers?
So you have to be very careful that you never promise anything that you cannot promise. You cannot promise what will happen if they try to get a new mortgage. That's happening in the future. You don't know what their credit looks like. You don't know what the laws will be at that point in time. The magic phrase is historically speaking, right? We've done a lot of properties, and historically speaking, none of my sellers have had an issue getting a new property, and a lot of them have gone out and gotten a new loan that same month. Historically speaking, if you would be able to get a mortgage without this mortgage in place, you should be able to get a mortgage with this mortgage in place. But I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell the future. I don't know what the lending laws are going to look like, and I don't know what your credit is going to look like. So I can't promise that. I just know what's happened up to this point.
But I can promise, if you don't do this and you do let it go to foreclosure, you ain't buying
Right. My favorite part of talking about that is, especially if we are, and again, this is sub 2, right? Again, I'm going to specify that sub 2 is not a wraparound, and I'm just hammering that because, again, if we're getting sub 2 questions in a wraparound lesson, I don't know that you guys are separating this as far as you should be. But to that point, again, we can't promise anything. We can only say what we've seen in the past. We can't say, and I always say I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen in that future. But to your point, if we're doing sub 2 and we're catching up their loan, here's the thing that I'll throw at them is I'll be like, look, we're buying this house. We're catching up the payments. Yes, the payment is going to be on your credit, but that's going to show on-time payments going forward and that you caught up your loan, which is going to help rebuild your credit. And if we were to come down 2 years later and stop paying on it, which has never happened, but if that were to happen, you get to foreclose on me, get the property back. Property values will likely have gotten higher than they are now. Your loan balance will be now lower than it is today. We will have caught it up. We will have fixed up the house and modernized it of today. So you're getting back a better house and a better equity position. So when your worst case scenario is better than the situations you're sitting in today, why would you not move forward? There's my negotiation tip.
I have nothing to sell you, but here you can have it. Sally Riddle, I have a contract to purchase for a property for cash, and I have a buyer that wants the property but wants me to finance it. Will a lender finance my purchase knowing I will be selling it on a wrap the same day?
Yeah, the beauty of private money, especially, is that lenders will do literally anything as long as it makes sense for both of you, and you make it equitable. Lenders that are allowing, like bank lenders that allow wraparounds, are fewer and far between, but they're out there. If you've got a referral for somebody that works like that for you, please drop it in the comments. I know Texas Republic Bank is one that you can work with. But yes, absolutely. You can get it. You can get a lender in place that's going to allow you to do that. You can also do what's called a collateral assignment or hypothecation. But again, I think those are conversations for another day. In that you can almost, if you bought it with cash, you can create your mortgage with your buyer, and then you can essentially refinance that mortgage with a lender later by assigning not the house, because you don't own the house, so you can't assign that as collateral, but you can assign your note as collateral to get that loan.
And one thing that we talk about all the time here at Propelio TV, Grant Teaches Something, is real estate investing is very much so the wild, wild west of business. You literally can do whatever you think of.
On your acquisition.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying in any of it.
Well, disposition, we are held to consumer protection laws. The only reason why I'm saying.
Grant.
Like if you're selling it to somebody who's going to live in it, we've got consumer protection law. If you're buying it, it's a Wild West.
Right, but I'm just saying in general.
Yeah.
Not all Grant. But my point being is, and I was trying to give you a plug, but maybe I don't want to give it to you anymore. As I was trying to get to the point, and you just killed me, is you got to get creative.
Yeah.
Hence, CreativeCashFlow.com.
CreativeCashFlow.com, where the investor who wants more gets it. CreativeCashFlow.com is what I do the education side of things through. What you're seeing here is a partnership between CreativeCashFlow.com and Propelio.com. We both share the vision that you guys deserve legit, real knowledge from somebody who's been there and done that, and that's what we're providing for you. If you want more exclusive videos and access to my weekly Q&A session, check out CreativeCashFlow.com and join. We will be raising the price by about $300 next week, so if you're thinking about joining, now is the time to do it. And yeah.
And if you want to see pictures of my dog, follow me on Instagram, Ryan S. Harper. I'm just kidding. Do you ever owner finance with a balloon payments due within X amount of years?
That's a great question, Sarah. So Sarah, this actually plays very well into what I was just talking about, which is that we have consumer protection laws when we're selling to somebody who's going to live in the property. You can sell with a balloon. Absolutely. It is still Wild West in that way. But if you want the court protections that come along with something called a qualified mortgage or a QM, you need to not do a balloon. I encourage you to absolutely, positively, every single time you sell a house with owner financing, you need that to be a QM, a qualified mortgage. And you get that through running it through your RMLO and not doing a balloon, doing a maximum of 30 years of payments. Your interest rate is going to be whatever APOR is plus 8.5. So right about now, that means under 12.5%, you need your APR to be under that. But here, and no interest-only loans, no negative amortizations. If you want a balloon, just do an adjustable rate with that person instead. You can make it a step rate mortgage that says, hey, this isn't going to go down. In 3 years, it will go up to this, and then 2 years after that, it will go up to that. That, you can still have a qualified mortgage. You can still get the court protections with an ARM. You just don't get them with a balloon.
Cool. Pamela Gilbert, she has a great comment. She's like, compound interest, two of the best words in the English language.
Yeah, compound. I love that word. Like I have a compound of people in the backwoods that nobody knows about. Like that is my...
So from YouTube, we got Blue Shield Property Solutions. If sellers are behind on payments and it's in escrow, is insurance still getting paid? Does the bank pay to keep insured?
Yeah.
Were you listening?
I was listening to another subject 2 question come in. So
come on, Grant.
I know. I'm just saying.
Grant teach me
it is,
something,
and I'm not trying to crap on you guys. I'm really not. But I really want you to understand that sub 2 is not a wraparound. And I know I'm getting annoying by saying that, but it's 2 different things. So the question being, when you have escrowed insurance and taxes, right?
Yes.
And they're behind on payments.
Yes.
Does the payment that you catch up those?
Does the bank pay to keep that insured?
Yeah.
Basically, I think they're saying, is this house going to be uninsured?
Right, yeah. So when you acquire that property with sub 2, your arrearages will catch up the escrow there. And it's very important that you replace the insurance policy that's in that escrow account with a new insurance policy. And we'll talk about, we may have talked about that in the sub 2 episode on episode 3. But I know that we'll start talking about insurance again. And last season, we did a really extensive lesson on subject to insurance. So I really recommend you go back through the videos and watch
and
that.
Shout out to RJ Bates and James Jenkins and the DFW Real Estate Investor Meetup. RJ, who does Titanium Tuesdays, he was having a conversation with James Jenkins about insurance, and then RJ was like, dude, James just saved me $40,000.
Yeah.
So
yeah, James is a sharp guy. I like him.
Make sure you're finding quality insurance people to assist you in your business, and you need to be the expert at something. You need to build your team to be the expert at what they're doing.
Right.
So here we are wrapping up. So if you have questions, more comments, please drop them in before we leave. I would really like every single question that has nothing to do with wraps, just to aggravate him.
No, and I do. I want these questions. I really do. I just want to also make sure that everybody understands. Because here's the thing: is that, like you just said, RJ said he saved $40,000.
Yeah.
Understanding that difference literally is. So let's do a quick example. Let me just show you. I think I can get this done pretty quickly. Let me show you why I'm being so persnickety about this. Is that
a word?
Yeah, it is now. It wasn't my word. Okay, so we've got two different.
That's so bad. The scratch marks I did.
We've got two different scenarios. Okay, our owner owes $70,000 on it. Okay, now if we buy that property sub 2, 70 grand, 4.25%, 22 years left on it. That means that we're paying $409 a month. If we buy that property as a wraparound, which many people do, unknowingly giving out tons of money.
But I think the way you just worded that, if we buy it as a wraparound, are you saying you the end homeowner, or are you the investor?
The investor.
So shouldn't you reword that? And again, maybe I'm being finicky. Is if I'm buying this with the purpose of wrapping around?
No, I'm trying to separate out the two strategies, because you can buy with a wrap. You can get into a property with a wrap.
And then
I don't advise it. And then you can wrap that wrap. But I don't advise that. If you were to buy this with a wrap at 70 grand,
we need a new hashtag,
wrap that wrap at 9.5% for 22 years, which this is a very rudimentary example of this. Your payment on that, oh, well, I already have that. Your payment there would be $633. Okay, so I have seen many people who did not understand necessarily the difference between sub 2 and wrap, and they're like, yeah, I bought it for the same terms I would be selling it at. Ooh. And so in this would be $630. You're giving up another $210 or $220 that you could have held as profits by not understanding that you should just be buying sub 2 at that 4.25 versus buying at a higher interest rate. And the way that I wrote that makes it super obvious. Yeah. But the reason why I'm saying this is that it's not always super obvious in the field. So you've got to understand what it is that you're getting yourself into.
I think the biggest thing is in any strategies within real estate, whether you're wholesaling, flipping, sub-2ing, wrapping, et cetera, is make sure you have the right team in place, make sure you have the right mentors in place, make sure you're JVing with the right people. Because this is very wild, wild west in a lot of ways, you can get so creative that you kick your own ass.
Yeah.
So make sure you have quality people to mastermind with to keep you on the right path.
Right.
Is that a way to keep it?
It is.
Uplifting and light?
Yeah.
So we've wrapped up.
Wrapped it up.
I know you're going to go there. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you got something out of that. Grant, do you have final thoughts on wraps or what? Any more tips?
Thank you guys for joining us. I really, I love doing this. I love the interactions. I love.
You just killed our screen. But
oh, I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Whatever. I love you. I love you, Rai. I love you, audience.
And if people want to get a hold of you for business, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can friend me on Facebook, follow CreativeCashFlow.com on Facebook, and check me out at CreativeCashFlow.com. Again, I do a live Q&A session every Monday night for all of our students, and that's a great way to get involved and learn more about whatever it is that you want to learn.
For Propelio, if you need access to off-market lead lists, if you need access to true MLS comps, if you need access to having a super easy investor-friendly website, Propelio.com. We're in a ton of markets right now. If we're not in your market yet, reach out to me. Like if you know a broker that was willing to possibly partner with us to bring Propelio to your market, hit me up, Ryan at Propelio.com. I'm very active on social media. Hell, shoot me a text, 214-422-7766.
Oh, you better sign him up for some
hey
lists.
Girl, what's up? No, but truly, Propelio.com, we want to be in every market, and the only way we could do that is if we partner up with quality, awesome brokers. So outside of that, We also have next Tuesday, we have the DFW Real Estate Investor Meetup. It's going to be our last meetup of 2018. At this meetup, we're going back to the basics of you've got Grant doing our presentation on, you were talking about how to retire.
How to retire.
Daniel's doing an hour presentation on mobile homes. We've got somebody I know from the LinkedIn world, Lila Smith, she's talking about effective communication. You've got Debbie Camacho-Franco talking about small business security, like literally a topic that I've never heard in a real estate investor arena.
That's
is
awesome.
People how to be, let's be, secure.
Yeah.
And then also Kayla McMahon, she's gonna be talking about just listing tips, like, cause she was on here with the Iron Heels and just riffing on about different things you need to be doing on, what are you doing?
I was trying to put up the thing that you gave me to put up, but I don't know where I put it.
But she's gonna be riffing on what you need to be doing for listing your property, and not just as a realtor, but as an investor on a flip.
That's awesome.
So those are the things. As always, we got free food, we got free booze. Aaron Merge is gonna DJ, so it's gonna be a great event. Outside of that, everybody on YouTube, everybody on Facebook, everybody in the podcast world, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications. And I hope you're enjoying it. And that's all we got.
Awesome.
I know that was a long spiel.
We will see you guys next week.
Yeah, so tomorrow check out Iron Heels. Until then, I hope you got something out of it. If you didn't, well, check it out
That's
tomorrow.
my fault. Comment and I'll answer questions.
There you go.